My wonderful friends, welcome back. Today, I want to tell you a story that is not only about success or technology, but about one man's deep belief that life should be meaningful, creative, and insanely great. It's a story about Steve Jobs, the man who taught the world that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. His story will help you learn new English words, but more importantly, it will help you think differently about your own life. Steve Jobs was born on February 24th, 1955, in San Francisco. He was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs, who raised him in a small home in Mountain View, California. His father, Paul, was a mechanic and craftsman. He taught Steve the beauty of building things with your hands. When Steve was a little boy, his father told him something he never forgot. When you build a thing, make the back of it as beautiful as the front, even if nobody will see it. That was his first lesson about excellence, doing things right even when no one is watching. From the beginning, Steve was curious. He liked to ask questions, sometimes too many. He wanted to know how things worked. Radios, cars, computers. The first new word we learn from his childhood is curiosity. Curiosity means the desire to know or learn something. Example: curiosity makes us explore new ideas and grow as human beings. But Steve was not an easy child. He was brilliant, but he didn't like to follow rules. In school, teachers often called him a troublemaker. He once said, "I was pretty bored in school. I wanted to do something that mattered." That restlessness would follow him all his life. It was not rebellion. It was the beginning of vision. When Steve was a teenager, he met another curious mind, Steve Wozniak. They became friends, both passionate about electronics. Together, they would later start something that changed the world. But before that, Jobs dropped out of college. He entered Reed College but left after just 6 months. He said, "I didn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life." Yet he stayed on campus, sleeping on friends' floors and taking classes that interested him, like calligraphy. That one small decision would later change the design of every computer in the world. The word for this part is intuition. Intuition means knowing or understanding something without logic, a sense that comes from inside. Example: Steve followed his intuition when he left college, but kept learning what inspired him. In 1976, at only 21 years old, Steve and Wozniak built the first Apple computer in a small garage. They called it Apple I. It was not just a machine, it was a dream of bringing technology to ordinary people. Until then, computers were huge, cold, and belonged to corporations or scientists. Steve believed they could be warm, personal, and even beautiful. When Apple II was released, everything changed. It became the first successful personal computer, and Apple grew fast. Steve was now a young millionaire, but he didn't care much about money. He cared about making something insanely great. He was known for his intensity. He would push people hard, ask impossible questions, and demand perfection. Many thought he was difficult, but he saw something others didn't: the connection between technology and art. The word focus became his guiding principle. Focus means to give your full attention to one thing. Example: when you focus on what truly matters, you create something powerful. Steve often said, "Focus is about saying no." He believed that success comes from removing distractions and doing one thing perfectly. But soon, the story took a turn. In 1985, after conflicts with the Apple board, Steve was forced to leave the company he founded. Imagine building something from nothing and then being told you can't stay. For most people, that would have been the end. But for Steve, it was a new beginning. He said later, "Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have happened to me." The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. He started 2 new ventures, NeXT and Pixar. Next built powerful computers for education and business, while Pixar became the first studio to create a full-length computer-animated film, Toy Story. That film changed the world of animation forever. Here we learn another word, resilience. Resilience means the ability to recover from difficulties. Example, Steve's resilience turned failure into a foundation for his future success. Years passed, and Apple was struggling. The company lost direction, its products were dull, and its spirit was gone. In 1997, something extraordinary happened. Apple invited Steve back. He returned not as an employee, but as the visionary leader who would save the company. When he came back, the first thing he said was simple: "We have to focus." He cut dozens of projects and kept only 4: a desktop computer, a laptop, and 2 professional versions. He simplified everything: products, strategy, even design. He introduced the Apple Think Different campaign. Its message was beautiful. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the ones who see things differently. Focus and simplicity became his 2 guiding stars. He said, "Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple." This became the core of every Apple product, from the iMac to the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad. He turned technology into poetry. Another new word here is simplicity. Simplicity means being clear and easy to understand. Example, simplicity helps people connect deeply with what matters. But behind the elegance of Apple's designs was the mind of a man who demanded more from himself and others. He was known for his intensity, but also for his deep love of beauty. He wanted to make products that were not only useful, but felt alive. Something that would make people smile when they touched it. He would ask, "Is this truly great? Is this insanely great?" The word insanely here doesn't mean crazy. It means extraordinary, beyond normal. It was his way of saying, don't settle for good enough. As the years went by, Apple became one of the most valuable companies in the world. People lined up for hours to buy products that didn't just work, they inspired. Steve said, "People don't know what they want until you show it to them." That was his genius, to imagine the future before others could see it. He often talked about connecting the dots. He said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward." It means that sometimes we don't understand the meaning of our choices until later. The word vision fits perfectly here. Vision means the ability to see beyond the present, to imagine the future. Example, Steve's vision changed how the world uses technology. In 2007, Apple introduced the iPhone. It was not just a phone, it was a revolution. It changed how people communicate, learn, and live. It became a symbol of connection and creativity. Every detail, the curve, the sound, the simplicity, reflected Steve's philosophy of life. Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. But success did not make him forget his struggles. He once said, "I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do?" That is purpose. Purpose means the reason why something exists or is done. Example: when you live with purpose, every day becomes meaningful. Even when he became sick, he continued working. He refused to let fear guide his choices. He said, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose." That wasn't sadness. It was freedom. He understood that time is the most precious gift. As his health declined, he focused even more on what mattered most: his family, his work, his vision. In his final years, he reminded everyone around him to stay hungry, stay foolish. It was his way of saying, never stop learning, never stop dreaming. Let's review some of the words we learned today. Curiosity. The desire to learn or know something new. Intuition. Understanding without reasoning. Focus. Giving full attention to one thing. Resilience. The ability to recover from difficulty. Simplicity. The art of keeping things clear and beautiful. Vision. The ability to imagine the future. Purpose. The reason for doing something. Each of these words describes not only Steve Jobs, but also the path to creating something meaningful in life. Before we end, let me ask you a few questions to reflect on. What does focus mean to you? How can you simplify something in your life today? What is your purpose that wakes you up in the morning? Do you see failure as the end or as a beginning? And finally, what would happen if you too refused to settle for ordinary? My friends, this story is not about technology. It's about courage, creativity, and the belief that even one person can change the world. Steve Jobs once said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." So, as you listen to his story, remember, your story is just beginning. Focus on what matters. Simplify where you can, and whatever you do, make it insanely great.